We pick up our story after the martyrdom of St. Stephen. The Sanhedrin had taken advantage of the momentary lapse of Roman rule and the death of the Emperor Tiberius. There would now be rulers of Israel, while Rome was leaderless. Terror had fallen on the Christians. Many Christians started to leave Jerusalem. One of the Christian-speaking Jewish deacons ordained in Jerusalem was Nicholas. He was from the city of Antioch, so it makes sense that he returned to Antioch to spread the gospel there. Philip, another deacon who was ordained with Nicholas, went to Samaria. He made many converts there because they remembered when Jesus himself had come to preach. Unfortunately, there was one he baptized there called Simon Magus, who didn't seek salvation, but the power to work miracles. He was very disappointed he didn't receive this power like other Christians had. Like Judas before him, Simon didn't get the true message of Christ. It wasn't about power, but about salvation. He would be rebuked by St. Peter himself after trying to buy his power from him. Peter saying, "Your heart is not right with God." Simon Magus would be the precursor to the heresy a century later of Gnosticism. Philip, after evangelizing Samaria, headed for the coast of what is called Palestine. On the way, he met a eunuch from Ethiopia. There were Jews even in Ethiopia, and this eunuch may have been one of them. He was baptized by Philip, who moved on to Joppa in Palestine. Ethiopia wouldn't be evangelized completely until 300 years later, but they had some knowledge of the cross after so many years, even though they had forgotten its meaning. Maybe this eunuch did what he could when he returned. Tradition tells us that St. Matthew the Apostle made his way to Ethiopia too. As St. Peter followed Deacon Philip to Samaria to confirm his converts there, he proceeded to Palestine to do the same in Joppa. This is about the year 39 AD. St. Peter amazed the locals of Joppa by raising the widow Tabitha from the dead. Soon after this, a centurion from the Roman army, who was pious and attracted to the high moral values of Judaism, was at prayer, and an angel appeared to him and told him to send for a man called Peter in the town of Joppa. Probably close to this time, St. Peter was at prayer and had a vision. He was told 3 times to eat unkosher food, which would make him unclean by Mosaic law. St. Peter refused, but the voice said, "What God has cleansed, let no man call unclean." God was saying that the old Mosaic law was finished and that Christians were returning to the time of Noah and Abraham, when there were no kosher laws. Soon after this, the servants of the centurion Cornelius from Caesarea arrived and asked for St. Peter. Peter decided to go to Caesarea with 6 probably confused Jewish Christians. He entered the house and ate and talked with Cornelius in his household, which is forbidden by Jewish law. Once Cornelius' household understood Christianity, the Holy Spirit descended on them in tongues of fire, just like at Pentecost. From the vision, the intervention of an angel, and the sign of the Holy Spirit, St. Peter was convinced that Christianity was not just for the Jews, but also for the Gentiles. St. Peter baptized them all. It can't be stressed enough how monumental this action was. This was shocking to the Jewish Christians. Peter explained what happened, and most of them rejoiced, but not all of them. This issue would reappear. News of the acceptance of the Gentiles must have soon reached Antioch, because at this time they met with much success in evangelizing Gentiles in Antioch. The success was so great that, as like in Samaria, St. Peter headed to Antioch to confirm the new believers, after meeting St. Paul in Jerusalem. Meanwhile, in Rome, the replacement of the Emperor Tiberius was already given power in 37 AD, a man named Gaudius, the adoptive son of Tiberius. Like most young leaders, he became drunk on power. Gaudius is better known by his infamous name of Caligula, a name he hated which means booties. He was an immoral man. He considered himself a god and ordered a statue of himself built in the Jewish temple. These orders were dreaded by the Roman soldiers in Israel, because they knew this would only lead to riots. They delayed in implementing it. Caligula was repealing the law by Julius Caesar, which allowed Jews freedom of worship without interference by Rome. Caligula's reign soon ended in January 41 AD, ruling for about 4 years. He was killed by his Praetorian Guard. He was replaced by a scholar, Claudius. Claudius was thought to be a weak man, but he was not a bad emperor, except that he allowed Herod's son, Herod Agrippa, as king of all Judea and Samaria. Herod used his power to persecute Christians to win favor with the Jewish Sanhedrin. We will see next how Herod Agrippa, like his grandfather, the Herod during the birth of Christ, causes Christians to flee for their lives, spilling innocent blood, and the first apostle martyr.